Hello again. I did say at some stage I'll be putting out some tutorial videos for those of you who are interested in starting to make loop-based music. Thought about it and yeah, don't think the traditional tutorial format is going to work. What I'm going to do instead is let you look over my shoulder while I'm doing things. Best way to learn is by doing it. There are some things that you will need, there's no getting out of if you're going to do this seriously. The first one being Exhibit A, good set of headphones. There's a big argument that you get what you pay for with audio equipment. I don't buy into that at all. If you know what you're looking for, then you can find something that's reasonable. I mean, if you want to spend 500-600 quid on a set of headphones, fair dues, crack on. But you don't need to be successful to get results. These, I believe, set me back £30. They're SONY MDR series, so look, yeah, XB300s. And these are my weapon of choice when I start making a song with my software. Because generally speaking, when I do that, it's generally night time. I had to go put the camera up last night and try to do this video, but being of the evening, all that you get off my screen is like a massive glare and you wouldn't be able to see what was going on. So we'll have to think outside the box and do something during the day, I'm afraid. The other thing that we are going to need is a good reference set of speakers. I mean, this setup I've got in here is actually pretty crazy. This is genuinely the amplifiers that I use. This one on the top here is my weapon of choice as a monitor system, because it's not the most powerful of amps in the world, but it's got a fairly neutral sound, and as you can see, we're capable of making quite a bit of noise in here. Obviously you don't need all of this starting out. This is what's been built up over time. Probably just see the sub tucked away under there. Massive wires. I'm not too prissy about that. Nobody's going under there with a hoover, so it's all cool. But your basics, you know, just one decent amplifier, like I said, weapon of choice, silver one on top there, and one decent set of speakers. My weapons of choice are over in the corner there. The top ones on those stacks are a different colour to the rest of them. Again, they're by Acoustic Solutions. They're model AV20, quite hard to get hold of now because they don't make them anymore, but they've just got a very natural sound. If you leave all the tone controls on the amp flat, zero, no bass extension, no treble extension, no loudness, nothing like that, just leave it flat with a good set of speakers, you will get a fairly good impression of whether your hard work has been in vain or not. Because if it sounds absolute rubbish for the reference system, which, you know, I think is representative of mostly what my music's going to be played on, then, you know, you've got to go back to the drawing board. Right, anyway, without further ado, let's get on to something practical. This is Sony Acid Pro 7, which, to be fair, is my weapon of choice with DAWs. Mainly because it's like its owner, really. It's quite simple. To be fair, I've been using it, well, 4 years now. Never had to touch the instruction manual. It's all been very intuitive, plug and play. It just seems to get on with my way of thinking. I tried out Cubase and things like that, which, you know, great, cockpit of a 747, buttons and knobs everywhere, but anything that takes 20 minutes to get it to make a noise, for me, is going in my recycle bin. I haven't got no time for it, you know. I just want to get on, get moving. Obviously, there is a song loaded in here at the moment, as you can probably see from these waveforms that are lined up. This is one that's giving me murders at the moment. I've just literally stripped this mix back, took everything off, so it's just raw as it was laid out. which reminds me, first point, when using any music software at all, make a point of saving regularly, because if you overload the software and it goes tits up and you have to forcibly close it, whatever you're working on, if you've been there the last 4, 6, 8 hours, whatever you're working on, it's gone. So they do say, I mean, this does have a recovery option on it, but it doesn't always do what it says on the tin, and it can only recover as far back as before the error. So you find you've lost half your song anyway, and really you're just better off starting again. So yes, save often is a top tip. Right, let's have a look around this software. If you're new to all this, this is probably looking quite scary. What we've got going on down here on the left is your file system. This is where you pick up things and bring them into your song, and you can just go through your whole hard drive like that. Or if you've got things on external storage as well. I mean, I choose to keep a lot of my loops on an external hard drive, which is just off camera. It's just below the screen. You probably saw it in the brief pan around that I did of speakers and everything in here. Handy investment. You will find that loops do take up a lot of space. I mean, I've got half a terabyte hard drive on this. It doesn't take long to fill it with loops once you start getting serious. So yes, let's get back into where I was. Obviously, as you can tell, this is a Windows machine. Quick word about processors while I'm here. If you haven't already got your equipment, I would strongly suggest looking at computers with AMD processors. For music, they're just better. I did have Sony running on my old laptop, got me through the first 2 discs, but that was on Intel, and yeah, froze up quite a lot. It was quite irritating because I lost more than I saved. My dad kindly updated my laptop shortly after Living Twice came out, and its first running anger was the Harder to Follow album. Currently in the midst of making Raw, which you will see cropping up in the near future, but for the now, let's delve into this. So I can play this as it stands at the moment. You've got 2 play buttons, which is a bit confusing. That's to do with the looping. This blue bar at the top here is the loop area, and you can extend that as far or as little as you want to go into your song. If you want to work on a particular bit, you can have that looping, which makes life easier sometimes. You can turn looping on or off with the, what do you call that, a circular arrow. It's next to the left play button. You can, if you don't want it to loop, there's a metronome function, which is there. Sometimes comes in handy. I don't really use it that often. Only for checking sometimes BPM on samples, so you don't always get what they say on the tin. Sometimes somebody puts something up, it's supposed to play 180 beats per minute. You put it anywhere near that and it's just ridiculously fast. Right, okay. So let's give this a whirl. This stage you're probably thinking, okay, well, what's wrong with that? When you play around with stuff on here, you can make it sound better or make it sound a lot worse depending on what you do. But there's no hard and fast rules to this, you know. Play around with stuff, see what works, see what doesn't. I mean, a lot of it is down to your own personal listening preferences. For example, I mean, this beat, if you want to separate off, oh, I've done the sub. Next one down, Fix, try again. If you want to separate something off in Sony Acid, use the exclamation mark and that will play just the track that you want to mess around with. To get some effects on there, it's the green cross. And for me, you know, that kick is pretty limp wristed, to be fair. So that's going to have to come up a bit. I'm in the Sony track EQ at the moment. You can probably hear that getting meatier as I mess around with the slider. As a general rule of thumb, I've found that if you start going over 4 dB of gain on anywhere in the EQ, you tend to later on push it towards distortion. So on the most basic level, the first thing that you can do with a track is alter the way it sounds with the EQ. Now that I've upped the kick a bit, I'm going to try and turn this up so that you can hear what I'm doing as I'm talking. If it deafens you, I'm sorry, you know, put something down the bottom there, let me know. Right, can you hear the hi-hat? There you go, that's better, that's a lot better. Very small movements generally when you're doing this first stage. That'll come back in a second. So now we need to sort out the snare. Make that a little bit more snappy. There you go. Hopefully you should be hearing a difference in that. Next thing you need to check is your levels, where you're coming out here. It becomes important towards the end of making a song when you're working on this master fader, because basically, I've just pulled that up so you can see, if your peaks are above, I call it the 6 rule, it's actually -6 dB, but what you want to aim to do is get your tracks to be around that level. Any louder, when they start to go yellow, you're in danger of distortion at the end of the day. So for this particular drum track, I want it to sit track 2. So this is my drum here, and what I want it to do, I'm going to take it lower for a second because I'm still not done effects wise, and I know that that's going to bump it up a bit more. But what I need now is the main subline as a reference. So I'm going to stop it playing and open up the sub. Be surprised if it comes through these speakers. which it won't because it's below that range, so we need to turn the subwoofer on. And hopefully we'll get some bass to play with. Bit too vocal, okay. One of the tricks that you can use with bass lines is to compress them so that you can sit them up a bit louder in the mix, because as you can probably hear, we're making things rattle here. So one of the plugins that I find very useful is Rough Rider. This is a compressor which is available free. Just Google it, look it up, Rough Rider. The presets are good. You can also fiddle with knobs and buttons if you like that sort of thing. Me, that preset will do me. And you can probably hear it's tamed down a lot of that quite. Okay, so now we've got the main bass line. Put that up against the beat. Now, with sublines, I like to sit them a little bit lower in the mix, so that if you push the naughty buttons on your noisy toys, the loudness primarily, you can obviously get the bass to jump out at you. But I tend to go for subtlety. I usually set a sub between -12 and -18. I have got that sub whacked up pretty loud and exaggerated just so you can hear what I'm doing. So now I've got the beat and the main bass line of the song somewhere near each other, level wise. That right. Okay, next up, what I did there was I just turned the frequency range of my bass boost down a little bit because it was making everything rattle, which I don't want. Another good plugin on the reverb side of things, again a 3 VST, called Ambience. This is going to sound weird when I add it. But I want the drum booth effect for this particular beat, which is nice and tight and tidy. Even on a fast computer, I mean this is dual core with enough RAM to dim the lights, but you will get into trouble with ambience if you don't turn down the quality CPU dial. Because if you use this for too many things, what will happen is you'll run out of processor cycles, you won't be able to do it fast enough, and your track will glitch and stutter and just sound awful. What I've sort of troubleshooted it down to is that ambience can be quite heavy on your computer cycles, so you want to just whack it down as low as you dare. When I find 10% CPU will do. There we go, 12%, nice. Every change you make, just little fine adjustments. There you go. Ooh, this is going to be a long ass video. Right, okay. Stop that there for a second. It's time to save. Because I don't want to lose all that I've just done. With me rambling on to you, YouTube, at the same time. That's so far taken on my days. Almost 18 minutes just to do two parts of one song. But hopefully, seeing me do this is helping you in some way. I will do some more specific tutorials for things, again, down below in the comments. You know, get at me if there's something that you're not sure of, that you want to know about loop-based music and this particular software that I'm using. I'm sorry, but I can't field any questions from Mixcraft or the others because I don't use them, and although the principles are roughly the same, you'll probably find if you're using Mixcraft at the moment, what I'm doing here is just in different places on that particular door. But generally, this is fairly standard to what you actually get. It's just what works best with the way that you work your workflow, what you can get on with. Let's have a listen now to the melody parts of this song, that being the first one. I thought I'd read them all. I've left that on there, okay, but I like that, so that's staying. Okay, this guitar needs roughing up down the bottom here. It's part of the melody of the song on its own. I tend to use Sony's own distortion effects because they are quite versatile. don't be afraid to experiment and put another, you know, chain these effects together. I want a particular sound for this guitar, and there's only one way I know of getting it. That's where I want it to be. But obviously, because it's panned left and right, I've now got to remember all those settings for the other channel. Bear with. So exactly the same thing. Except they've got to match, obviously. Right, let's get that sat in the mix. If you want to skip to a place in a song, always try and hit a blank area next to where you want to start. If you just want to listen to how the change that you've just made is working with the rest of the song, this is where these two play buttons come in, because the right hand one will play from the point that you've selected there and continue. The left one will go right back to the beginning and start playing from there. Right, let's do another save. Yeah, that's quite a bit to take in. This video is getting stupidly long, so I think what we'll do here, because my cup of coffee is almost done, and I'm sure yours is we'll break this into parts. I'm going to continue filming the rest of this today, so yeah, check back soon for part 2, and hopefully you've learned something from this. Like I say, if there's anything specific you want to ask that is related to Sony Acid or just the process of making loop-based music generally, down in the comments. I'll see you soon.